I don't think I can watch any more of this. Can we turn this off? And she did like La Volta. She liked to dance all her life, actually. As if she would have said that to Elizabeth's face. Do you know what? If you're going to include a scene when Elizabeth and Mary meet, it at least has to be realistic. I'm Dr. Nicola Tallis, and today we're going to be doing Historian's Gogglebox with Tudor movies.
Anne, have you considered what I asked? Is there hope?
How could I ever trust you when I've seen how you've betrayed first your wife, now my sister?
No. Oh, okay, so Mary's literally giving birth in the next room whilst Henry's outside seducing her sister. Likely scenario. Childbirth was an exclusively female process, and there's no way that Henry and Anne would have been conducting this. Is it not going to happen right outside whilst Mary is giving birth? And also, the likelihood is that Mary's affair with Henry VIII had come to an end before he even showed an interest in Anne, so that's unlikely also.
I vow I will never lie with my wife, nor speak to your sister again.
She's just had my baby, but I'll never speak to her again. Oh my God. This is shocking.
A boy.
And Mary doesn't have a boy. Well, she does, but not at this point. We do know that Mary Boleyn did have a son, but it's unlikely to have been Henry's as well. They did possibly have a daughter together, although unacknowledged.
Grace. A son.
You've just got a son and you're only interested in Anne Boleyn. So un-Henry-like. Of course, Mary Boleyn wouldn't actually have been at Anne's execution, but never mind. And it's also May. They're wrapped up like it's winter.
Coming to court, and were only spared because of my respect and affection for you.
Mary had actually been banished from court a couple of years before because she'd married William Stafford, a man inferior to her in social status, without Henry and Anne's consent. And Anne had sort of reconciled with her, but not to the extent that Mary would have been able to intercede with the king on Anne's behalf. That just wouldn't have happened. I can hardly watch this. This is so bad. Anne wasn't falling apart in this way. Pull yourself together, woman. Okay, I mean, she does pass her headdress to a woman, I think, so that bit's right. I don't think her women were crying in the background either, because as far as I know, the women didn't really like her. Oh, for God's sake. She was no way as emotional as this. This is really cringe. Okay, sword, that is accurate. But it didn't play out like that. Oh. All the accounts that we have of Anne Boleyn's execution report that she was extremely dignified and very composed. She wasn't this emotional wreck as she's shown in this scene. I'm afraid to say this is probably the worst example of Anne's execution that I've ever seen, so it gets a 1 out of 10 from me. Costumes are quite good in this film, I have to say. Joseph Fiennes does look quite fit and dark and mysterious. You can see why he was nicknamed the Gypsy here from his skin tone, even though this isn't actually Robert Dudley.
Will you dance?
If it please you.
Play a Volta!
And she did like La Volta. She liked to dance all her life, actually, so that's an accurate reflection. I like this. They are kind of dancing as they would have done at the time. and he is kind of giving her the come hither eyes. Elizabeth was really fond of dancing. We know that she loved dancing all of her life, even into old age. And here in this scene, she can be seen dancing La Volta, which was a very popular dance of the time that Elizabeth was very fond of.
Because I am nothing to them and everything to you.
Do you love her?
And he wouldn't be publicly declaring his love for her like this.
No, I love you. I have always loved you. I was afraid of losing you because I was not afraid. For God's sake, you are still my Elizabeth.
Oh, you're still my Elizabeth. That's a big mistake. That's something you only say to someone in private.
I am no man's Elizabeth.
So they're arguing over the fact that Elizabeth's just discovered that Robert Dudley is married. However, that's totally wrong because Robert Dudley had been married years ago by this point, and it wasn't a secret. It was a massive court wedding that had been paid for by Edward VI. So Elizabeth knew all about it. She knew all about the fact that he had a wife. She didn't want to be the other woman, mind you, but she did know all about Amy Robsart, Dudley's wife. So there's no way that this sort of commotion and storm would have happened in public in that way. The backdrop's very good as well.
I will have one mistress here.
Reflects how rich the fabric of the court would have been. 6 out of 10 because I think the costumes are great. I like the dancing. I like Joseph Fiennes. However, the argument is a big no-no. This is the scene at Tilbury in 1588 as Elizabeth was kind of rallying and encouraging her troops when they were faced with the threat of the Armada. So there's the troops. They all look quite good, all decked out in their armour. I mean, she's looking pretty good for a woman in her 50s at this point, I have to say. But why is she wearing a full set of armour? There is no way that Elizabeth was wearing a full suit of armour like this. We know she wasn't. We know that she was wearing a breastplate and a white dress. So why they've got her wearing a full suit of armour, I've got no idea.
We see the sails of the enemy approaching. We hear the Spanish guns over the water.
I don't think I can watch any more of this. Can we turn this off?
We will meet.
The speech is all wrong. Why have they changed the speech? It's the most iconic speech of Elizabeth's reign. And why have they crimped her pony's mane?
Amongst you all! While we stand together, no invader.
I mean, this is typical, isn't it? When Hollywood meets history, Hollywood always wins. The speech delivered by Elizabeth at Tilbury to her troops is completely wrong. I've got no idea why. And for some reason, they take out the most iconic line, which is, I know I have the body but of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king and a king of England too. I mean, how iconic is that? Everyone knows that. Everyone associates that with Elizabeth, but they don't put it in. I don't know why. So that's a big mistake, I think. And for some reason, they've over-dramatised it with basically a load of rubbish instead. So for that reason, I'm going to give this scene a 3 out of 10.
Do you think it might stand with my honour to marry my sister's subject?
It is true that an earl is not a prince. Surely there can be no greater honour than to match yourself.
Everyone's dressed in black, which is quite weird.
I have such inheritance by blood, regardless of who I marry or do not marry.
What I don't understand is why they've got Mary speaking in a Scottish accent. She wouldn't have been speaking in a Scottish accent. Yeah, her attitude in this is kind of antagonistic, whereas in reality, she was trying to get Elizabeth to be friendly towards her. So the whole kind of demeanour is wrong. And also, it's really annoying that they've got Mary Queen of Scots speaking in a Scottish accent because She didn't have a Scottish accent, we don't think. And let's not forget, she'd spent a lot of her life living in France, so she probably had a French accent rather than a Scots one.
We hope we do not vex the Earl.
Not in the least, madam. I appreciate your honesty.
We see why our cousin is so fond of
Yeah,
her.
she's trying to convince Elizabeth's ambassadors that she should be named as Elizabeth's heir. I just don't get why it's all so dark. I don't get why they're all dressed in black, because there would have been no reason for them all to be there dressed in black. And also, there's no way that Mary was as aggressive towards Elizabeth at this time. We know that she did want to be Elizabeth's heir, but she wanted to become Queen of England after Elizabeth's death, not before.
I am more man than woman now. The throne has made me so. But I have no enmity with you.
There's Elizabeth, there's Mary in the same room. Why do they keep doing this? Why do they always have to meet? They didn't meet. They didn't meet.
Possess. I had this made because I wanted to present.
She's got the wig. Oh, okay, she's taking the wig off. Oh, come on. She's not going to do that. That's showing Mary her weakness.
For envy. Your gifts are your downfall.
This really plays on Elizabeth's insecurities as well. But what I will say is that I think that the two actresses were pretty good at the roles that they were cast to play.
You have nothing to fear. Your fate rests in your own hands.
If I seek to help your enemies, 'tis only because you pushed me to their arms.
Oh, okay, so if I plot against you, then it's your fault. As if she would have said that to Elizabeth's face.
And you murder your queen.
There's a huge, massive issue with this scene, which is the fundamental problem that it shows a meeting between Elizabeth and Mary, but one that never happened. What I will say is that a meeting was planned between the two queens in 1562, but it never happened for various reasons, and we know that Mary was really upset about this. But there's just no way that Mary would have been talking about Elizabeth having her murdered at this point. And I don't think she'd have had the insolence to speak to Elizabeth in that way in any case, because, as I said, she wanted to court her friendship. She wasn't thinking about dying and plotting against her. All of that comes much later. So for this scene, it's going to be brutal, I'm afraid. It's going to be a 2 out of 10.
Lowly player.
Alas, indeed. For I thought you the highest poet of my esteem, and a writer of plays that capture my heart.
Oh, I am him too.
I mean, I guess it's not inconceivable, is it, that suitors would have hung around outside their beloved's windows in the dark.
Anon!
Okay, lovely, lovely shot of the interiors. That's quite accurate. I love that shot. Okay, Shakespeare back at his desk, feeling inspired. They're using a quill, that's good. Using the candles, that's good. They are making an effort with the 16th century handwriting. Also impressive. When we see Shakespeare writing, I think that that probably is quite an accurate depiction, because you see him sharpening his quill, which they would have done. You see him with writer's cramp, which I imagine that he would have got, and working under candlelight. I imagine he did have flurries like that as well, where he was feeling particularly inspired, so wanted to scribble everything down before he forgot. So I think that that's probably quite an accurate portrayal of Shakespeare at work.
The doors of breath, sealed with a righteous kiss. A dateless bargain to engrossing death.
Oh, okay, so that's great. They've got the audience, which, as they would have been in real life, close to the stage.
True apothecary. My drugs are quick.
Slight problem with the fact that women weren't really allowed on the stage. Okay, and they've got people in the galleries watching the play, so that's all good. That would have happened. What Shakespeare in Love does really well is its portrayal of the theatre, and they did really use Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, which in reality opened in 1599. So the decision to film there, I think, was a really good one, and I think that they capture the essence and the atmosphere of the Elizabethan theatre really, really well. So the stage, the crowd, the poorer people would have paid a penny to stand and watch the play or the performance, and the wealthier people would have been lining the galleries around the theatre to watch. The big pitfall, unfortunately, is the fact that women weren't allowed to act on the stage at the theatre. And you can even see in that short clip that they had men dressed as women because of this. So unfortunately, that's just what lets it down slightly, is the appearance of Viola on the stage, because quite clearly she's not a man. The thing that we have to say about Shakespeare in Love is that it is completely fictional. So I think that they can get away with a lot more here, because they're not trying to depict facts. So I think what it does do is create quite a good backdrop to Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, and it does get a good sense of the romance between Shakespeare and Viola, or Romeo and Juliet. Completely ignores the fact that in real life Shakespeare was married, but hey, who cares? It's Shakespeare in Love. In some ways I feel like I'm being a bit unfair on the other films, because, I don't know, this one is just pure fiction. However, I think it has to have a 7 out of 10 for drama alone.